In a modern setting, we define freedom as absolute individual autonomy. It is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, without answering to anyone but yourself. This concept is the cornerstone of our social and political identity. We treat this version of liberty as the highest ideal a person can achieve. Within this framework, any outside command or obligation feels like an attack. If someone tells you what you must do, they stand in the way of your freedom. Yet this raises a practical question. If freedom means having zero obligations to the people around you, how can a community actually hold together? When freedom is defined solely by independence, it becomes an inherently selfish pursuit. It isolates the individual, treating everyone else as a potential restriction on their autonomy. The Apostle Paul seems to use this exact language in his letter to the Galatians. He writes, "For freedom Christ has set us free." But just a few sentences later, the message changes. Paul tells his readers not to indulge their own desires, but he commands them to do the exact opposite: serve one another humbly in love. These two ideas appear to be in direct competition. If you are set free, how can you simultaneously be commanded to serve others? We can only make sense of this by looking at what Paul's audience was freed from. When Paul wrote this letter, Galatian churches were falling back into a system of religious legalism. They were trying to prove their worth through rigid adherence to ancient rules. Paul calls this the yoke of slavery, the exhausting effort to earn God's approval through endless, complex religious requirements. Because no one could follow it perfectly, the law became a constant anxiety. Failure meant falling under a curse, resulting in spiritual terror. Martin Luther noted that the liberation Paul describes is internal. It is a freedom of the conscience, an end to the fear of judgment. According to Paul, Christ's death and resurrection removed the burden of earning salvation. The curse was exhausted. The weight of the religious checklist was gone. Biblical liberation is the end of self-justification. It frees the mind from needing to save itself, though it doesn't remove the responsibility to live a moral life. If the religious rules are gone, what stops people from simply living for themselves? Paul points to a new model that replaces the old yoke, the law of Christ. The old code was a dense web of hundreds of specific demands. The law of Christ is different. It is driven by one core principle: love. This is seen in Jesus' own life. He possessed absolute power and total freedom, and used that freedom to step down and carry the burdens of others on the cross. Freedom under the law of Christ looks like the choice to follow that example. It is the voluntary decision to use your liberty for the sake of someone else. In the 5th chapter of Galatians, Paul describes two paths: the works of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit. The flesh path treats freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence. Paul warns this leads people to bite and devour each other, tearing the community apart. As believers are led by the Holy Spirit, they develop a different character. This produces a fruit of love, joy, peace, and kindness to others. This spiritual growth changes a person's motivation. They begin to bear one another's burdens, not because a rulebook demands it, but because they are being guided by the Spirit. Here, the conflict between freedom and service disappears. Serving others becomes the ultimate, purest expression of a conscience that has truly been set free. When you are no longer consumed by the effort of trying to save yourself, your hands are finally free to lift up the people around you.